Okay, so let's go through and dive a little bit deeper, not much deeper. This is going to be first extrapolation. Second extrapolation will probably be even longer, but it's late at night and I'm just doing this for a friend. I have a video out there called CAGED, C-A-G-E-D, theory, I believe. And what I do in that video is very quickly I run through a box shape, an arpeggio that is within that box, and a chord that's within that box. And then I move diatonically up through different tones of that scale, doing the same thing, demonstrating that in the next box position, here's my arpeggio and here is my scale. An example of that would be the very first, if we chose G with the tonic note being on the low, E first note of play. That would be an example of what I did. Going through that, it has its uses, but you don't learn a whole lot from it, really. At least I didn't. I think what you can learn more from is once you've committed two things to memory: caged chord shapes. So you definitely need to know your C shape, your A shape, your G shape, your D shape, and your E shape. If you don't know that and you don't know how to move them around the fretboard, that will be someone else can explain that to you. I don't have time in this video to go through that. It's too late at night and I just don't really want to go into that. And there's so many people that cover it, there's no point in me covering it. An example though very quickly would be you just take that shape and you move it. Oops. Oh, that's hard. And again, I haven't played guitar in many months, so that was probably the worst example there. An easier example, why did I choose the hardest one? An easy example would be the E, right? And then move that around. Okay. That's how to make scales. That's how to make chords out of your 5 different open chords. What you should have really picked up from CAGED theory is that you should think what is that chord shape? How can I make that identifiable, right? The E, the C, is the C major scale, a C major scale, and a C major chord, with the C, the root note, being on the A string, and it's a low, whatever. It's the root note being on the A string, okay? And the A is the root note being an open A on the A string, and the G is the root note being the G on the E string, and the E is the root note being the open E on the E string, and the D is being the open D on the D string. So right? Get your C, A, G, E, D. So when you think about those just 5 notes, C, A, G, E, D, think about what box shape would relate to that. So if I had to play C major scale right here in the open position, how would I do that with no knowledge prior of how to make the C major scale? Sure, I could absolutely just go whole, half, whole, and get through it. Or I could do other things painfully, but I think if you want to start combining knowledge together, which is ultimately what you should want to do, take something and then be able to apply it to something else. What you would do is say, I don't know, box shapes. And if you haven't learned your box shapes, you need to go learn them. A lot of people will call them the 7 modes. And while learning the 7 modes, what they'll do is take each tone of a major scale and play through that major scale, starting on each tone on the low E string. So if I were to start with the first tone, which is an E, which is a G in the G major scale, I would play with the root note being on the lowest string every time. I would go through and then I move up to the next tone of that scale, which is an A, and I play through the G major scale starting on an A, with the A being the lowest note. And then I would play 7 notes. I'm stopping on the G, but I'm trying to think what would be more logical. I guess stopping on the octave would be more logical. It just sounds horrible to my ears. And then doing the same thing with the B. And I'm not going all the way through it. To go all the way through it. A. B. C. D. E. F sharp. Back to the root note. What I just did there, you can slow it down. Don't ask me to transcribe it, whatever. All I did was take a G, an A, a B, a C, a D, an E, and an F sharp, and I played them in a box. The box is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets. This is the box. The box is I'm boxing myself within 5 frets, and I play no more than 3 notes per string. So those are the rules. I can't go beyond 5 fret stretch with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, not 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and no more than 3 notes per string. So I can't go. That breaks 2 rules. If I were to go, which is the G major, the A major scale, I've broken 2 rules. I've played 4 notes on 1 string, and I've gone 6 frets high. So by caging myself in, boxing myself in, I have to play it on the next string over. And you apply that rule to the entire scale, and you end up playing it. Like that. And there's only one way to come up with it like that. Now, the variances would be, you can choose to play 2 notes here or 2 notes there. Really not much variation though. So there's no point showing it to you. It's not magic, and it's really not even that cool. Well, I mean, yeah, it is cool. Sorry. It's just I don't want to go through it. What I want to focus on is that once you know those 7 box shapes, and I've just described to you how you'd come up with them, and I've shown them to you, you would take every tone of a scale, and starting on that next successive tone diatonically, you'd build a scale within a box, the box being 5 frets and no more than 3 notes per string. There's no, if you come up with it on your own, you're going to come up with exactly what everyone else has come up with. You can't get it wrong, and there's nothing new under the sun. There's just only one way to do that. So, get out a piece of paper and map through either C major or G major. because those are the two easiest scales to play on the guitar. Because of, I say they're easiest. There's the two easiest scales to play probably anywhere, because C has no accidentals and G just has one. So all you have to focus on is the F sharp and the G's case. Map through that if you haven't learned it yet, and then pause or hit stop and come back here whenever you've learned CAGED and the 7 boxes, and bam, okay, you've unpaused it. Here we are. So let's think about the C. The C major scale starts with the root note here on the A string. And with the root note on the A string not played by the first finger, that's important. If it was an open string or played by the first finger, it would be the first note of the 3-note per string lick. If it's not being played basically in an open position, it's not the first finger that would be playing it in a 3-note position box. If you think about that, it'll come clear. I can't really explain much more why that's true. So the C is being played not in an open position, which means it's not the first note in the 3-note per string lick. So which box has C, has its root note C, or its root note period, on the A string not being the first note, so it's either the second or the third note? Well, if we go through whatever we've chosen as our reference point, for me it's G major. Let's go through the first 2 strings of G to find that, right? Okay, there's I don't even get to a G on the A string there. I get to a G here, but well, not actually. I get to an F sharp there, sorry. And then finally we get to the 3rd box. And I get to the G with my pinky, which is great because it's not the first finger. So if I were to think about what is this box here, that's C major. This is G major. So what I'm basically playing back there is C major, 3rd box position with open strings. So let's take that C box, the 3rd box, and we're going to start calling it the C box. So the C box in the 3rd box, which is the 3rd tonic, the 3rd tone of a scale. So it's your 3rd box. So it's that scale starting on the 3rd tone of the low E. If you were to build a scale caged or boxed within our constraints of no more than 5 frets wide, no more than 3 notes per string, it would look like this. Okay, let's just take that and transpose that to C, because that was G. Okay, so now we know how to play C major in the open position. And when we start thinking about the C shape, we should start thinking about the 3rd box and start calling that 3rd box the C box. Does that make sense? So if you find yourself playing some chord shape, right, like this one, what this one happens to be is there's my root note right there. So that is an E and F, right? So I'm just showing you that, you know, if you start thinking about whatever, the way I think about the fretboard is I think of it as an open 5, 12, right? So if it's not open, I think the closest thing to open, 5 is where my next string over would be. So I'm this far from E I know that this is my E because I'm sorry, my D, because my next string over is the open D. So I think D, E, F, right? I'm just telling you something else here that I think about often, especially like now when I haven't played guitar in months, and I don't have my fretboard memorized anymore. I start thinking of relative position. So I think what note do I absolutely know? I know this one. I know my opens, my fifths, and my 12s very well. So this is my D, and I think, okay, then if that's D, then a minor third away is an F. And I could think, okay, well then I absolutely know how to rip through the scale there. So I start thinking of that C box shape is what we're going to call it. Let's go through this now quickly with the other shapes. A. A is an open A, which means it would be played with the first finger of a 3-note string lick on the A. So let's go back to what we know, our reference point. When do we play G on the A string box shape with our first finger? Not there, not there, not there, not there. There we are, right there. We're in the 5th position, or the 5th box, sorry, not the 5th position, we're in the 10th position. So that is the 5th tone of the G major scale, so it's the 5th box that we're playing there, because D is the 5th tone, right? G, A, B, C, D, and it looks like this. Except, I don't play my 5th box with, I break the rules. In my 5th box, I play it like this. Okay, so with that in mind, let's shift back here. Let's transpose that G to an A, because we're in the A position, and play that same box. Let's play the 5 box, right? Which now we're going to call the A box. And if you don't want to do the shift, it would look like this. I'm going to get it right. That's why I don't play it, because I can't memorize that. For some odd reason, that's harder for me to memorize. That's easy for me to memorize, okay? So when we start thinking about the A shape, I just happen to pick the same chords every time. Okay, here. Okay, let's play the A shape. Okay, so that's the A box shape, or the 5 shape. 5 box, A box, 3 box, C box, okay? See, A, G. We're not playing an open G, which means it's not the first note of the 3-note string lick. So where do we play G when it's not the first? Well, offhand, we are already on the G on the low string, so we know that it's not the first position because that's the first note. So it could either be the 7th position, problem is we didn't play a single open note, right? And this is an open G. So it's not the 7th. So it is when is the 3rd note. That was with the 2nd note. When it's the 3rd note, which is the 6th position. And I goofed around and messed up there, just to show you that how easy it is to mess up. I'm kidding. So when we start thinking about the G, we start thinking about the sixth box. So we call that the G box. So let's take those three boxes and transpose those back to G, and just for fun, right? So let's take the third box, the first one we covered, right? Okay, that's our C box. Let's take our A box, fifth position. Okay, that's our A box. Let's take our G box. I can't do it from here. Sorry, I haven't practiced in too long. Okay, see what we're doing there? C-A-G-E. Let's take our E. It's the E on the low E string, and it's the first note. That's the easiest one to figure out, right? Because it's the first tonic tone. So it's the first box. So let's apply the first box shape. Here's the first box shape in G. Let's transpose that to E. Okay, so now let's transpose back from E major to G major. Okay. My E box. C-A-G-E. D. It's the open D string, which means it's the first note. So let's go through and quickly think about that. Let's go through them. So it wasn't the first note there, right? What did it do? I think it's clear. We're looking for when the root note is the first note on the D string. Nope. Yes. Okay, second try. So that is our second box. We're going to call our second box the D box. And if you consider the notes that we really played on the D is here, it would be kind of start here. So that's our D box shape. So we now, well, let's transpose that back to D. Oops, sorry. Okay, so let's play the open chords, C-A-G-E-D. Let's play the open scales around them, and let's, whatever, when we're done. C. We think of A. G. E. and D. Then there we go. We now know how to play the open scales, the open chords, and we know a name to give our boxes now. So now 5 of our boxes are no longer called 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Now they're called C box shape. I'm sorry, E box shape. Right, 1, 2, D box shape. So right. Well, what would be more? So E box shape, D box shape. 2, 3 is our C box shape. 4 we didn't cover. 5 is our A box shape. 6 is our E box. Our G box shape. I guess we should start on the G. Sorry. And 7 we didn't cover. So what we did cover was E box. 1, 2, 3, 5, 6. 7 is very easy to transition to, and it's very close to both your G and your E box shapes, right? I don't know why I showed you that. So, I don't know. I think that's useful to know. And I think that's useful to think about more. Think about when you are in a box, think about what that box is called relative to the caged theory. Is it the E box, the A box, the G box, the D box, the C box, or is it one of the two bastards like the 7 box and the 4 box? The 7 box is, again, the 7 box is so, the 7 box is really just a mix of both the G box and the E box. If you know the G box and the E box, you know how to transition from those two to each other, right? Because here's our G box. That was on E though. Why did I show you that? I'll just show you here. Okay. So here's our G box. I'm sorry, this is our E box. And here is our G box. So if you look at those, you only have, like, you know, between those two, you have this. Which, if you think about it, I think about it as the top half of my E box. Right? So that's your 7. Your 7 is your transition between your G box and your E box, and your 4, again, you can think of that as a transition between your 5, which is your A box, and your 3, which is your C box. Anyway, I hope that helps.